Good morning. My name is Azzy Ahmed, and I stand here today as a former member of the British Army and the Conservative parliamentary candidate for Rochdale last year. My journey from a close-knit Muslim family in Manchester to this stage is an unusual one. I came from working in my family kebab shop to becoming one of the first women to go through the rigorous SAS selection training. As you can imagine, there were plenty of raised eyebrows when I walked into the army barracks. Though ultimately, the time for women to serve on the front line had not yet come when I was marching through the Brecon Beacons, the experience was grueling. But taking that opportunity made me who I am today. I am a Conservative because I want this to be a country where everyone has those opportunities to get on and succeed, regardless of their background. My journey shows how this can be a country that works for everyone, where people are not judged on what they look like or where they come from. And that is why I am so proud that under this government, women can now serve on the front line. Because if you are good enough to do the job, nothing else should matter. This is the party of opportunity and the party of defence. This government is increasing the defence budget so that our troops have the equipment that they need to keep this country safe. And I am delighted to introduce the man who is leading this vital work, helping us to stand tall as a proud, outward-looking nation that has the best armed forces in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Azzy, for that kind introduction. Your story is an inspirational reminder of how our armed forces extend opportunity and tear down artificial barriers. And it's an honour to have you here today alongside my ministerial team, Mike Penning, Harriet Baldwin, Mark Lancaster and Freddie Howe, backed up by Graham Evans and Joe Churchill, all of them who do so much to make sure our armed forces have what they need to keep this country safe. This week, our party is putting forward a vision of our country that works for everyone, where you can go as far as your talents can take you. But ultimately, the opportunity to get on depends on the security provided by our armed forces. Today, British forces are fighting terrorism, countering aggression, training troops in democracies as far apart as Iraq and Ukraine, Nigeria and Afghanistan. Here at home, they are patrolling our skies and our seas. They are serving now around the world, around the clock, to keep our country safe. And every single one of them deserves our thanks. In Theresa May, we have a leader who puts security first. Her very first act as Prime Minister was to win an overwhelming majority in Parliament to build the new nuclear submarines that will deter the most extreme threats through to the 2060s. That sent the most powerful message about Britain's commitment to defend our way of life and that of our allies. And let me tell you that tomorrow I will go from here to Barrow to cut steel on the first new successor Trident submarine. A £1 billion investment programme, by the way, that will benefit businesses from Barrow to Berkshire, from the north of Scotland to Tyneside. And what a contrast with the Labour Party. While we're getting on with a successor programme, they can't even agree a successor to Jeremy Corbyn. Instead, they have just re-elected a leader who wants to scrap our nuclear weapons, who wants to leave NATO, who wants to talk to terrorists. Let me tell you that waving a white flag will not keep us safe. Labour would risk our defence for their dogma. That's why they can never be trusted with Britain's security. Now, today we face Daesh terrorism, a resurgent Russia, cyber attacks, North Korea illegally testing nuclear weapons. But unlike Labour, we have the will to respond to those threats. We're investing in more ships, more planes, a 50,000-strong division, better equipment, and stronger cyber defence, all paid for by a defence budget that will grow every year of this Parliament. Our party putting defence first. Now, leaving the European Union does not mean that we are stepping back from our commitments to the security of our continent. We will continue to have the biggest defence budget in Europe, meeting that 2% NATO spending target. And we will lead in NATO, the cornerstone of our defence, by putting troops onto its eastern border next year. But we will go on blocking an EU army that would simply undermine NATO. And around the world, we will step up, not step away, from our global responsibilities. Our armed forces are already playing the second biggest part in the international coalition against Daesh. Last month, I had the privilege of meeting our troops in Iraq who are training Iraqi and Kurdish forces. We are doubling the number of British troops we have there. The Royal Air Force is out there striking Daesh day and night. Royal Navy frigates and destroyers help guard coalition aircraft carriers. Defeating Daesh will help keep Britain's streets safe. And 2 years into this campaign, I ask you to pay tribute to all that our military are doing to defeat this terrible menace. We are also increasing our troop numbers in Afghanistan. We are doubling our contribution to United Nations peacekeeping missions in Africa. With new aircraft carriers, new maritime patrol aircraft, new attack helicopters and armoured vehicles, and the fifth biggest defence budget in the world, we remain ready to defend freedom and the rule of law, to advance democracy, and to protect human rights. It is the men and women of our armed forces who put themselves in danger to provide the security that is essential for a country that works for everyone. But the armed forces themselves can be a remarkable engine of social mobility. Look at Cadet, now Lieutenant, Kidanye Kusland. On a Tottenham estate, the school system failed Kidanye. But the army turned him into the best officer graduating from Sandhurst this year. Look at how the armed forces provide the most apprenticeships in our country of any organisation, helping people to develop the skills that benefit our military, but also setting them up for better careers in civilian life after they leave. I'm setting a target to deliver 50,000 military apprenticeships over this Parliament. Look too at the young cadets who learn in school the skills and confidence they need to thrive. Today, I'm announcing the first 25 of 150 new cadet units we are creating in state schools. And they include one I want to tell you about at Rockwood Academy in this city that I shall be visiting this afternoon. Rockwood Academy used to be a Trojan horse school. It's been turned around completely, and instead of promoting religious segregation, today, as a new academy, it's instilling British values with a school cadet unit that will parade this afternoon, serving Queen and country. And look too at how we help service personnel to buy their own homes. Last year, I told you I wanted our Forces Help to Buy scheme to help 10,000 personnel, and we're meeting that target. But I want more of our service men and women to have the chance to buy their own homes, so I'm extending that scheme through to 2018. More homes for heroes. And we aren't just helping servicemen and women get on the housing ladder. We are selling Ministry of Defence land that we don't need to build the homes that we do. Now, thanks to the experience gained in serving our country, most veterans find good jobs. But inevitably, a few are scarred by their service, and we are doing more to support them, particularly those with mental health issues. But I also know how much stress is caused by legal claims years after conflicts have ended. Now, it is right that we should investigate serious allegations, but we've now seen our legal system abused to falsely accuse our armed forces. So we're doing something about it. Of more than So let me tell you what we are doing. Of more than 3,000 claims originally lodged, about half have already been discontinued, and another 1,000 cases will be thrown out by January. Already one of the firms that filed thousands of these claims, the so-called public interest lawyers, has had its legal aid contract terminated and shut down in August, and it won't be missed. So we're working hard to get the vexatious claims thrown out. And we're taking action to draw up a new time limit for bringing claims and to tackle no-win, no-fee deals. But much of the litigation that we face comes from the extension of the European Convention on Human Rights to the battlefield. That has been damaging our troops, undermining military operations, and costing the taxpayer millions that should be invested in defence itself. So I can announce today that in future conflicts, we intend to derogate from that European Convention. That will protect in future our armed forces from many of the industrial-scale claims we've seen arising out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, I want to be clear. This is not about putting our armed forces above the law. They wouldn't want that. They have to comply with the criminal law of this country and, of course, with the Geneva Conventions. Serious claims must be investigated. But spurious claims will be stopped, and our armed forces will now be able to do their job fighting the enemy and not the lawyers. As Defence Secretary, I've been lucky enough to see around our country and where they serve abroad how our armed forces give people chances they never thought they would have. And I want to do more to attract the brightest and the best to our ranks and to move through those ranks. I want to do more to ensure that any young man or woman can aim for Sandhurst, for Dartmouth, or for Cranwell. I want to see more recruits from ethnic minorities, and I want to see more women in our armed forces. So I've challenged our service chiefs to get at least 10% of our new recruits from a black, Asian, or minority ethnic background by 2020. And I've opened up, as Azzy told you, all combat roles to women, so it's ability and not gender that defines how far you can go. This isn't about tokenism, it's about talent. And we want to make sure that our armed forces can recruit the best in our society, whatever their background, playing their part as armed forces in a country that works for everyone. Conference, our armed forces keep us safe every day, every night, providing the security that underpins our freedom, promoting opportunity in our country, and enabling Britain to be a force for good in the world. This party, this government, will go on backing them, supporting the nuclear deterrent, giving them the equipment they need, remaining committed to NATO. We will always put the security of Britain first.